the note D. This one is going to continue with the idea of the midpoint, except this is going to throw a little loop into it. So rather than give you both ends, they're going to give you one end and the midpoint and ask you to find the other end. Okay, so let's just do it on a quick little number line here. So for example, if this was 0 and this was 4, what would this one be? Okay, so they're saying 4 is the midpoint. So this length and this length have to be the same. So that would mean that this coordinate out here, the other endpoint, would be 8. This is 4 and this is 4. 4 plus 4 gives me 8. Okay. What if I had, like, this is 2 and this is -1? What would this one be? Okay, again, this is just on a number line, and really we could just count if we had a true number line. The distance here is 3. The distance here has to be 3. Now I'm kind of going backwards on the number line here, so this would be 2 minus 3 gives me -1, minus 3 more would give me -4. So the coordinate for that endpoint would be at -4. So here's one way to do it without trying to do all that other stuff. To get the middle, to get the midpoint, if you remember, our formula is add the ends, divide by 2 gives you the middle. So if my ends are x and 2, if I add the ends and divide by 2, that gives me the middle. Okay, so you see how I wrote that little equation? If I'm trying to find x without knowing this stuff here, and I take the midpoint formula says, if I take the endpoints, add them together and divide by 2, that gives me my middle. So if one of the endpoints is 2, the other one I don't know, so we'll call that one x. Add the endpoints, divide by 2, that's going to give me my middle, or my midpoint. Now, I'm just going to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of that. So x plus 2 equals -2, minus 2 both sides, x equals -4, which is what we got when we just kind of mapped it out. Okay? Now, that's just on the number line. Number 6 is going to give me, what do I do if it's on a graph? Okay, so think of it like this. I'm just going to kind of sketch it out here. Find the coordinates of A. If the midpoint is at -1, 2, okay, so that's the midpoint, -1, 2. B has the coordinates of 3, -5. There's B, and that's going to be 3, -5. So can you kind of guess where A is going to be? So segment AB, so A has to be out here somewhere. We don't know what A is, so let's label that X and Y. Okay, so if you think about what we did on a number line, we have to do it twice on a graph. We do it once for the X value, and we do it once for the Y value. So I'm going to say it again. We add the ends. Let's just do X first. Add the ends. X plus 3 divided by 2 gives me the middle. Okay, so x plus 3 equals equals -2. X equals -5. So that means point A out here has an x value of -5, comma. Okay, now let's find the y value. Well, the y value here is -5. The y value here is y. Add the ends, y plus -5, and divide by 2. That will give me the middle y. So I do the x's together, and then I do the y's together. So y plus -5 equals 4. Add 5, y equals 9. So 9 is going to be my y coordinate. So the midpoint, excuse me, the other endpoint is going to be at negative 5, 9. And that makes sense, right? So A, find the coordinates of A, that's going to be at negative 5, 9. So you'll see it's just two little equations. One's to do it for the x's and one's to do it for the y's. Okay, you do number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then I'll come back, pause the video, and I'll come back and we will go through those. Okay, here's how number 7 should go. Read through it. You notice it's just like the one that we've just finished together. You're finding the coordinates of J. K is the midpoint. So you can sketch it out if that kind of helps you see it. So add the endpoints, divide by 2, that gives me my middle. Now they turned it around just a little bit than what I did, but it's the same thing. Maybe this makes more sense to you, maybe the other way makes more sense, it doesn't matter. Add the endpoints, divide by 2, gives me my midpoint. Here's my midpoint. Do the same thing for the y's. Okay, add them and divide by 2 gives me my middle. And so the endpoint J comes out at negative 2, 14. Same idea on number 8. Find the endpoint. For R, you end up at negative 7, 0. If you have any questions on how these are done, please let me know. Now, these last 3 were just like extensions of stuff we've already done. So let's take a look. More practice with algebra. So this one, when you read through it, there's no picture. So first thing you should do is draw a picture. Put the information on the picture. So here's your picture. P is the midpoint of XY. P midpoint XY. So these two little hash marks in here. Put this info on the picture also. Now, because it's midpoint, we know that that's an equals. See how they wrote the equation over here? Work it out, you get x equals 7. Go back and double check that's what they want you to find. Done. Again, there's 2 things here. The geometry part is, do you know how to set this up? And then there's the algebra skills of solving that. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're good on both of those. Number 10, same idea. G is the midpoint, so draw the picture. Getting this information on the picture, midpoint is your clue here, that those two, to set that equation up, I'm going to put them equal to each other. If it does not say midpoint and you just have something like this, then it is segment addition. You'd have to say this plus this one gives me the whole thing, whatever that might be. But this one says midpoint, so you set those equal to each other, you work it out, x equals 3. Look up here, find FH. Well, FH is all the way, the whole thing. So if I can find one of them, half of it, then I can find the whole thing. So FG is represented by 14x plus 25. Okay, so plug that in, you get 67. That makes this one 67 and this one 67. So doubling that, I get 134 for the length of FH. The last one, again, they have a picture over here that you can use. Okay, it's telling you line N bisects QR. Well, bisects and midpoint, it means this is the midpoint. Okay, well, if that's the midpoint, that makes these two little segments equal to each other. Okay, so the geometry part of knowing that that bisects is telling me that the algebra has to be equal to each other. Solve for x, and then make sure you're finding what you need to find. QP, look on your picture, Q to P is the expression 3x plus 5. Plug in x, you get 41. If you have any questions,